All right, it's 7:03. I think we'll get it kicked off.
Okay.
So I'll start us by just kind of saying why we're all here tonight and thanking the parents who are on. So we do have 35 different families joining us today to learn more about Junior Innovators, which is in its second year of running. Junior Innovators is an 8th grade elective science research class for just 8th grade students. And we're excited to bring Mr. Bermonti here to kind of pitch this class. We have not done a virtual parent session in the past. We're excited to do that today. Sometimes we steal Mr. Bermonti and a bunch of 8th grade students away and we send them on the road to go and present to 7th grade classes. But soon you'll hear how busy our 8th grade junior innovators truly are, and it's hard to peel them away from their projects for 3, 6, 9 full days to go and present to 7th grade classes. So we pivoted this year to a virtual session. This session will be recorded. The session video, the slides, and the Junior Innovators application will be posted to all 7th grade science classrooms on Google Classroom tomorrow. So that's just my heads up and spiel, but from here on out, Mr. Bermonti is going to take it away. And then we will follow his presentation with some Q&A from our current and past Junior Innovators.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hope all is doing well. My name is Andy Bermonti. I am the science research teacher at the high school, and now for the past 2 years, the Junior Innovators teacher, coincidentally, at the high school. So it's been a lot of fun. And so what I'd like to do this evening is really describe what the course is about. I know a lot of you guys are interested in having your son or daughter apply. So I thought I'd give you an idea of what the course is about, what the application looks like, and really what the expectations are, should your son or daughter take the class. So why don't I share my screen, which thankfully will make me really tiny in the corner. Okay, can you guys see it? Good. All right, excellent. So let's talk about Junior Innovators. So introducing Junior Innovators, it's an 8th grade elective, right? So first thing is it's research based. It is basically allowing your student, your son and your daughter, to really step outside the traditional curriculum and complete a research project that is really based on their own interests. So it really is very different and really requires that the student drive the process. In case you guys may have any questions later on, there's my my email at the bottom, and I immediately noticed a typo. I apologize. I'm independent, but let's get off of that so I don't say that anymore. So what does it look like? So the goals are to provide students, like I said, with a unique experience in a STEM elective course that is really innovative, personalized, and project-based. And what's not written there, and is really important, is driven by your son or your daughter. So I'm the teacher of the class. It basically meets one day per week, depending on which middle school you're in. So we call it as block 0, which is from 7 to 7:45 a.m. So for the past 2 years, it's been Monday has been Eastern Middle School, Tuesday is Central, and Wednesday is Western Middle School. And we designed that with the idea that every school, every student would have the same opportunities, particularly with respect to whether or not, if your student would like to apply to the state science fair. That occurs in March. And so this gives everybody equitable time in the lab. The enrollment for the class is very competitive. We limit it to 8 students per middle school. So really the enrollment is by application, and I'll get to that in a minute. And the reason it's only 8, to be perfectly frank with you guys, is it really requires a lot of one-on-one time, with your son or your daughter to really get meaningful results. So that kind of played around with it. The first year we had a little bit more, and then we lowered it down to 8, and it really worked out pretty well this year. So I'm very happy with that. Got to get the pictures out of the way. So let's talk about the rationale. Students are given the in-school opportunities to explore, imagine, create based on their own interests. So it's really not, it's nothing like a traditional course where, this week we're going to study earth science, or even in a high school, we're going to do chemistry all year or biology. This is very different. What I'm asking your kids to think about in order to apply for the class is really, what are the topics in science that interest them, right? And how can, what are they curious about, and how could they possibly delve into that topic and create a project that is very innovative, creative, and new. So the goal is to basically devise the entire process, certainly with a lot of help, from me, but the idea is that they have a question or they have an idea which generates a question. And then we basically sit down and we devise and execute a process that basically works towards the targeted outcome. What's written there is very true. It's usually full of failures and pivots, but that is the beauty of a class like this is you learn as much in your failures as you do in your successes. And often, there have been many times where students have basically gotten to the end of their project and it wasn't quite what they had envisioned in the, at the onset. That just makes it that much more, charming in terms of what they find out, and they own it. They basically have created this idea, originated it, created the process, executed the process, and then they basically, as the third bullet talks about, they collate the information and they defend it in public. So there are opportunities for kids to present at the state science fair, but even more importantly, if those that don't, I have the kids present amongst themselves. So we get a lot of practice in essentially creating these, these ideas and defending them, amongst other students. So what's really important is these skills, they really do transcend a science career, and really talking skills, defending ideas, all of that is so important, whether or not you go into a career in business, law, politics, or science. So really, it's a great opportunity regardless of what they eventually do. So we're basically going to create, or we're going to ask the students to, to complete an application. The due date is May 31st, 2024. So we're giving them about a month to do it. And so we're really going to pick 8 students from each middle school, and that will create the 2024-25 cohort for the Junior Innovators. I'll get into what the due dates are or what the schedule looks like, but the projects will be completed within the school year with opportunities to create, to participate in the Connecticut Science and Engineering Fair, otherwise known as CSEF. And that has potential paths to things like the Junior Olympiad, which is held in Rochester. And then finally, the Thermo Fisher, oddly enough, same name, Junior Innovators Challenge. And that was, some of you may know that to previously be the Broadcom Masters. And essentially what happens, the way to get selected for that opportunity is you have to, I believe it's about the top 10% or even the top 10 projects in the middle school are nominated to participate. And then you have to apply. And so I'll talk more about that, but in 2 years running, we've had a lot of kids selected for that very prestigious event. So let's see. So here's what we're kind of thinking in terms of timing. So September, so in this proposal that I'm asking your students to write, the hope is that is the project they will eventually work on as they come to the high school as a junior innovator. Now that may change, they may say something over the summer that catches their eye and maybe is a little more exciting. And certainly we love to hear about new things. But the idea is in September, they're essentially refining the idea, and they have this idea and they start to draw out how they're going to execute it, and they get started. So that will generate a research plan, and the difference between a proposal and a plan, I could explain it this way. A proposal is the idea, which has a lot of background information about, the science that's behind the idea and really what you hope to gain from working on it. The research plan is very different. That is essentially a very succinct and specific way to describe, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. Here's the procedure that I hope to carry out. So it really needs to be a little bit more, targeted to the project. The hope is that from November to May, they complete the research project. And so for those that are interested in competing in the state science fair, this research plan is due on December 1st. And the reason that's important is the science fair people, at the December 1st deadline, they're really not looking to judge whether or not a project is innovative or creative or great or not so great. The idea is they're really concerned more about the student. What is the student doing? Are they they putting themselves, in danger in any way, working with hazardous chemicals, things like that. So they're really reviewing the plan for safety with regards to the student. And so that's why it has to be very specific in terms of, okay, tell me, as the student applying to the fair, tell me what it is you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And it can't be vague. So it takes a bit of work to get it to that point. The research has to be completed by mid-February because the fair is the first week of March. So your abstract and your poster has to be completed by the end of February. So all of a sudden, this full year class has really shrunk into, now it's September to February in terms of, where how the work is carried out and how it's actually completed. If students do not participate in the science fair, then they'll be asked to do a final poster presentation or paper that's basically completed at the year's end. Okay. So for semester one, grading rationale, the grades are based on just successful selection of a research project, completion of the plan, very important, and active pursuit of the goals of the project. For semesters 2 and 4, it's really a grade that is based on effort. The interesting thing with science research, unlike a traditional class, in a traditional chemistry class, I could use that as a chemistry teacher, we would hand out experiments where we kind of we knew the outcome. In this particular case, we really don't know the outcome, but we really just look for effort, creativity, watching your student, bounce off the failures, use their imagination to create new directions. And that's really what the grades are about. So as long as the students are working, they'll do fine. The midterm grade is given where I ask the student to complete a 5 to 7 minute slide presentation on their project. And this is a great opportunity for, for the student to really start to, this happens in, let's say, January. So it's a great opportunity for the students to really start to collate their ideas, especially those that are interested in competing in the science fair, because that's only at that point a month away. So it gives them an opportunity to start collating info, getting data off of the instruments, which I'll show you in a minute. And it gives me a good opportunity to see, all right, where is each student, where are the students, where are they in terms of the progress they're making to complete the project. So the final exam is very similar. That's like the midterm, except you just add on to it. All right, tell me what happened during the rest of the year. So the presentation's a little longer. So we do these midterms and finals within, inside the class where the kids are giving them, these talks to themselves. So it's really a lot of fun. So this is what the application looks like. Again, it's due on May 31st. First thing I want to know is student's name. The middle school, that's important because I have to basically separate them into the different piles for each middle school. I need the email address so I can notify the student of the selection decision. And then I want to know a little bit about the activities that the student intends on, to take part in school, whether it's sports, theater, music, it really doesn't matter. The reason I ask that is I'm really trying to get a gauge of just how much each student is really taking on in a given year, because there will be times, especially for those students that are really trying to pursue a science fair project and presentation, where it gets a little busy, it really does. And so, really have to give some thought to, are you going to be able to take it all on and do it well? So names of the science teachers would be great that they had at middle school, in case I need to reach out and get some, opinions on not really whether or not the student is a great student. And what I mean by that is, students can, you can have I've had students in the past that were really good A students that can study and basically do well on an exam. This is a little different. What I'm looking for here is a student that can work independently, a student that could work with others, even though every project in the class is usually a singular or individual project. The kids do work together, share ideas, motivate each other. So really, just like, in business, just like in a job, you have to be able to work independently, but you also have to be able to work amongst your friends. And so that's really what I tend to, when I reach out to the science teachers, that's the information I'm looking for. And this document, by the way, that I'm sharing, this is the top of the first page. So this is what the application looks like. I'm just going through the different sections for you. So the big question is, please devise an experimental-based research proposal in an area of science, math, engineering of your choosing. So this is not this is difficult. This is not easy, because what I'm asking students to do is really think about those things that interest them. And I challenge all the students that I talk to in saying that everything you do basically has science behind it, whether it's the food that you eat, whether it's the clothing that you wear, the hobbies that you have. So really think from within, think about things that you have fun doing. You can get help at websites called Science News for Students. And then there's also another one called Science News, which is published by the Society for Science and the Public, which is the organization that basically supports the Junior Innovators Challenge, ISEF, which is the International Science Engineering Fair, and also the Science Talent Search, which is for high school seniors. You could also go on the Connecticut State Fair website and look at abstracts from previous 7th and 8th grade participants. I certainly would share a ton of abstracts that I have from previous kids. And, the abstracts are broken down by middle school life science and physical science. So there you can, separate the two. Physical science would be anything that energy, for example, the environment, whereas life science is more biological, cells, medicine, things like that. So you can sort of look and see where your interests are. It should include, the research proposal should include a background, certainly an introduction. What is the topic? What is the problem? And why is it important? And so, the thing that your student will learn in the Junior Innovators class and also in the high school research classes, this is very different from an English paper, a history paper. Really, when you write in science, it's really short and sweet. It's really tell me the material that I need to know. What is the problem? How do you aim to fix it? So you can either have a purpose/hypothesis, which is very traditional in terms of what your students are learning in middle school, or you could flip that to an engineering goal and basically say, I'd like to devise. A lot of kids at the high school in particular work on detection systems for disease. Right? So the idea there would be, for example, I'd like to make a rapid detection system for Alzheimer's or for whatever the disease may be. So that's an engineering goal. That's very different than purpose hypothesis, but either one is fine. And then methods. How do you hope to do this? How do you have an idea? What are your ideas in terms of how you might go from the start to finish? And that is the most difficult part. And then the references, where did you get your information from? Where did you get some help? And these should not simply be just web links. They should be journals, magazine articles, things that sort of that imply, I should say, that you did a little digging. I know that for the high school students in particular, they should never just put a bunch of web links, because that kind of implies you just sat at your computer and just started rifling through information. So so what's the most difficult part of this whole, 4-step process? It is definitely the methods, but I just want you to be, to be clear to you guys, I'm not looking for, the cure for disease in these applications. I'm not. What I'm really looking for are students that are being creative, students that are really making an effort to be original about what interests them, and what are some of the problems in those topics that interest them, and basically, working towards a solution for those problems. What's really kind of cool about working with both, high school and middle school kids is, students really don't have the same biases as adults. I say this often, we adults, we kind of think, at least we think we know how things work, and we often don't. Whereas, young students don't have that same notion. They see things sometimes for what they really are. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage in this process, to really look at something that is important, whether it's the environment, whether it's clean water, whether it's air pollution, any of those things. And then really think about how, your son and daughter, or how each one of them is affected in their own personal life, and how they might go about fixing that. And I'll show you some examples of some projects in a bit. So also, not down there at the bottom, how might you forward your project over the summer? So, how are you going to spend your summer thinking about what you're doing or what you intend to do? The idea is that when your student starts in the fall, they've given this some thought and they really hit the ground running. That's one of the application really, serves two purposes. It basically gives your student an opportunity to express what their interests are. And it also gives them an opportunity to really give it some, pre-thought so that when they get into the lab, they can actually start. So tell me a little bit about the equipment that you might need. And then finally, I do put a 5-page, I say, all right, kids often ask, how long should it be? And I said, well, how about 5 pages? And really, I don't count the pages. I don't, but I can flip that and say a 1-page proposal is probably not going to be very good. So, I kind of say 5 pages as a guideline, but when kids ask, I say just whatever it is to tell me the story, whatever it is to tell me the information that I'm asking and that you need to convey, that's fine. And so if it takes 1 less page, I don't care. So where does this class happen? Where does the money come from? All these good little topics I wanted to share with you. So the class is held at GHS within the Science Research Classroom, which is room 932. That room is dedicated to simply science research students, their projects, and now junior innovator students and their projects. So what's really nice about that is projects can be staged and really left in progress throughout the year. It's not a classroom. It's not an area where other classes, other kids are coming in and you got to put things away. So it really does allow for independent science to happen in the most authentic way, where you basically, just like a person working in a pharmaceutical company, you work to the end of the day, you kind of tidy things up and you get back to it the next day. And this is a lot like that. So all the reagents, the equipment, the cost, is in that dedicated research room. Students, the junior innovative students, will have access to all of the same equipment that the high schoolers do, and all of this, and more importantly, all the safety features within those facilities. So we make sure the kids are safe in what they're doing. Transportation to and from the junior innovators. So what we ask is that each student is to be dropped off by his or her parent at 7 o'clock. The front door of the high school is unlocked at 7, and the kids, come on up to the classroom. At the beginning of the year, I'll be down there to walk them up, sort of show them around. And then there's a school bus that takes the students to their respective middle school at 7:45. So on Monday, that bus will go to Eastern. On Tuesday, that bus will go to Central. And on Wednesday, the bus will go to Western. So the cost for the projects, the projects vary in cost, but what I always tell students to convey to their parents is that we ask you to sort of take a small piece of that, maybe the first $100, and then the rest of it is covered by the class fund, which I'll explain to you guys later. Okay, so here's just a very quick glimpse of the equipment that's at the high school. On the top left, there are a bunch of spectrometers. Bottom left, some different spectrometers. On the right is an electron microscope. So, I challenge any of you to tell me where an 8th grader is going to work on an electron microscope. Well, it happens in junior innovators, and it is cool. To actually see kids working on these pieces of equipment to forward their own ideas and their own creativity, it really does put tears in your eyes. So this is what the Connecticut State Science Fair looks like. This picture is a little bit old, but it really hasn't changed. So the kids basically all get together, and the idea is that students stand in front of their posters and tell their story, which generally is about 10 to 15 minutes, for their how they originated the idea, all the way through the design, the execution, and the significance of the results to either 1, 2, or 3 judges at a time. And usually they're there. If they're finalists at the fair, they will be there for 4 hours, basically telling the story over and over again. And the kids that are here can tell you more about that. The idea is the top winners will receive awards, but the very top winners will get nominated to take part in this Junior Innovators Challenge, which is run by a company called Thermo Fisher Scientific. And this is significant. Just like, I don't know if you've read the papers about the high schoolers where kids are getting selected to go to ISEF, and Lula can talk about that if she cares to. And also there's the Science Talent Search, which is for the high school seniors. This is the Science Talent Search for eighth graders. So, they basically, this is recognition that follows you. I know Lula got an email today, if I'm not mistaken, from the society. Now she's an alumni of this group, and they're going to get together in California when she's out there. So last year we had 2 kids picked for it. This year we had 4, and I'll talk about that in a second. So let me backtrack a second. So how are students successful in Junior Innovators? So this is something that I really added this year, and I want to clarify for you guys. So if your students are interested in taking part in the Connecticut Science and Engineering Fair, they should expect to spend extra time working on their projects outside of the class time. And the kids can talk to that. During the busy times, which is November to February, this would include evenings, weekend days, and maybe some, and why? Because some experiments really require that extended continuous time. So the way it generally works is I really do value the word independent, whether it's for the high school or the middle schooler. So I'm essentially at the school, and I would never ask a student to say, hey, you need to get here because your project requires it. It's really up to the student to really decide whether or not this is something that's important to them. And so these are the times that, after school, weekends, evenings, and this happens particularly between November and February, certainly much more towards the due dates for the science fair. So what I'm really, and the reason I'm telling you this is I really would like you to think about, this potential participation in the Junior Innovators course and other after-school commitments that that your students have, whether it be sports, athletics, dance, anything. It really doesn't matter, because there will be times where they're going to have to choose, and sort of shift their, their timings a little bit. So these are some of the lovely students that we had at this year's State Science Fair. So we had, let's count them up, 8. We had 8 students participate of the 24, and every one of them got a first or second place trophy. It was really a lot of fun to watch these kids do their thing. 4, not 2, but this time 4 kids got nominated to do this Junior Innovators Challenge. So we're looking forward. That application is due in June. Just to give you an idea of what that's about, that application is not only about the science, but it's asking the young lady or the young man to tell me about yourself. What do you do other than science? So this is an application and program or competition where they really are concerned and really want to know all about the student, so they kind of get a feeling for how kids are conducting their research and how they're really divvying up their time amongst all these other things that they do. It's a lot of fun, but it's almost like a college application, so it takes a little time. Give you some heads up. Very quickly, what some of the posters look like. So they're not for the faint of heart. This was Tyler's, and he did a rapid test for detection of iodine deficiencies based on a color change of a reaction that he found, where if you have iodine deficiency, the color stays blue. If you don't, it turns red, and it happens in seconds. So it's really kind of cool for saliva testing. This one was Micah's project on indoor air quality, particularly secondhand smoke. And she used a technique called gas chromatography to really look at the components of cigarette smoke, and then take a very basic $20 dehumidifier and add a $1 garbage can charcoal filter, a filter that just sort of keeps your can smelling nice. Put those 2 things together, and it cleaned up about 95% of the cigarette secondhand smoke, in what was analogous to a room of an apartment. So really a lot of fun, really cool. And then finally, Arthur, who couldn't make it tonight, just to give you a feeling of what the variety is and what the kids are thinking and what they're doing, he created a machine learning or an AI, artificial intelligence algorithm that someone would use. They'd go onto the internet and say, hey, I've got the sniffles today. What can I do about it? And so it's really based on allergies, but it gives some guidance on what can be done. But what was really cool about this is as people are using it, the information is being stored so that the process or the machine learning is getting better and better and learning based, because he would ask someone, okay, did you try it? Did it work? And so it really starts to manifest itself. So it gets even smarter and smarter, which is, I guess, both frightening and exciting, I suppose. Um, so, what I'd like, before I start taking questions, what I'd like to leave with you is here are some of the high school kids, and they go on to do some incredible stuff. I'm looking at the pictures of these kids. I see kids that started college, left college, started businesses. I see a young man on the bottom right that was a coffee farmer that lost a farm to a fungus called rust, came to the high school and solved that problem as a high school junior. The fellow in the top right, oddly enough, this predates Junior Innovators. This is many years ago, but Ethan is pictured there as I think a seventh grader is when he started the science fair. I don't know that he went to college. He started his own business on taking waste heat from a factory or a power plant chimney that's spewing out all this carbon dioxide, and he used the heat on the actual bricks to actually navigate and facilitate a reaction that would clean out the CO2, which is really exciting. Some of my students have met the president. One of my students actually took that goofy old man in the bottom center on a tour of the White House, which I'll never forget. So you learn a lot. These things that you learn really do transcend science. These are skills that the kids will use no matter what they do. So hopefully, generated some interest, and I'd certainly be willing to take some questions. I don't know how you want to handle the kids in terms of giving them time, or is that for Q&A?
Yeah, I think we can let, I mean, it's 7:30, we slated till 8 o'clock. So I think we can let the kids kind of just share, maybe a little bit about their view of the class and what it meant to kind of prioritize Junior Innovators. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is allow parents, you can utilize the chat function or the Q&A function to go ahead and ask your questions. Go ahead and start typing those questions in. In the meantime, maybe we'll start with Lula and Hannah, and then we'll go to Mackie, because Mackie, you're current 8th, correct? All right, so we'll start with Lula and Hannah if you just want to talk about what the whole year was about. And then I will start reading the questions aloud after they each maybe give a 2-minute overview of your experience and maybe something that you would want a current 7th grader to know before applying.
Okay, so I can go first. I think that Junior Innovators was probably the best decisions that I ever made. It was a really great experience, not just because you learn a lot of how to do those science experiments yourself and those lab experiments, but you also get really good and comfortable at presenting to a lot of different judges, which was something that I was kind of scared of at first, but after practicing so much with Mr. B and a lot of other people, it really makes you really comfortable talking in front of a large group of people, especially all of these judges, which are extremely familiar in all of the areas that your projects are in. So I would say that even if you're not super into science, I think that is something that you should definitely try. And even if you're not, you'll still get a lot of other skills, such as like presenting and getting comfortable with speech and everything, which is something that's definitely great for real life skills. And you can definitely build that love for science later on.
Oh, that sounded great. just so I can interject a little bit. Lula was a Junior Innovators, was selected for that Junior Innovators Challenge. Now she's a freshman, did a project on a new medication delivery system. So a traditional drug that was very difficult to administer because of its sensitivities to stomach acid. She created a way to motorize its delivery of it through the stomach into the intestine. It's really cool. And she was selected as an ISEF winner, and she's going to California in a couple of weeks. So congratulations.
Hey, Mr. Bramante, can you please unshare your screen so we can see some
sure.
of these?
Oh, of course.
All right, and then, sorry to interrupt. You just had a parent say that.
Awesome.
And then Hannah, do you want to give your experience?
Yeah, I think Junior Innovators was a really great experience for me because I was just able to pursue what I was really interested in, and it actually teaches you a lot about independence, which is a very useful skill, especially for high school. And Mr. Ramonti is a great mentor as well, and he really helps you and guides you throughout your project. And I think it's just a really great experience to uh, have an exposure to like all these like professional tools as an eighth grader. So it's a really great program.
Hannah, tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about what you did this year.
I created an artificial intelligence model to detect this condition called lipedema, which is a fat disorder in women.
That's it? Come on. I mean, I'll tell a little bit more. What was really heartwarming about Hannah's effort is she had this idea. Now, in Junior Innovators, she played with plants, which totally great. But just so you can get an idea of the pivot, the learning and the pivot to something a little more complex. I remember her contacting experts or people whose livelihood is based on helping patients with lipedema, and the amount of difficulty that she had getting any support from these folks was staggering. It really was. And so what I think is the most charming and most incredible about what she did is she did it on her own. You know, she basically took images that were freely available on the website, and in 2 months she learned how to do a classification model through machine learning so that she can do these predictions. It's really incredible. So thank you.
All right, and maybe Mackie, do you want to share one thing you would tell a current 7th grade student before applying?
Yeah, so this year I'm an eighth grader at EMS, and it was really fun doing it for my first year, and I definitely want to continue it throughout high school. And one thing I would let like a seventh grader know is that you just need to be able that you want to like pursue what you want to do, because I definitely had some like rough spots when like doing my project, because it was a little hard to get my idea out. But once I like put a lot of work in, like I had to come in on weekends, during Christmas break, I came in a little bit, and I really just worked hard, and then I eventually ended up finishing my project in time for the science fair, and it came out really well.
Excellent. What was it about?
My project was about dog food, which was like a really like random idea. I feel like I had 2 dogs of my own, so I wanted to like research what they were eating, and I researched a chemical inside of the dog food, which is BHT, and it's like common in many dog foods, and I wanted to test it because it can be a carcinogen in some cases, meaning it can cause cancer. So I wanted to research it to just see what my dogs were eating, and I researched it in like organic dog foods that said they didn't have it, and I just really wanted to like make sure people knew what their dogs were actually eating.
Okay, excellent. I'm getting text from Lily. Lily, can you hear me? She says she's out there somewhere, but she's probably.
I think that Lily joined as like
Okay. She might just be like a parent, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Caroline, how you doing?
we're good. We apologize for the music in the back. We're on our trip to DC on a boat currently, but we wanted to share about this because this program is truly important to both Briar and I, as it has let us explore many new views and create many new friends. Do you want to say anything?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that like through Junior Innovators, we've been able to meet people who are also like dedicated to wanting to learn more about like their project or just science in general. But yeah.
Thank
So
you.
my project was about water filtration, and Mr. B helped me create this idea, and he was there throughout the entire time, but also pushed me to do independent research myself. This is such an amazing program, and it has truly achieved me. Right now, like Matthew, we're both in 8th grade. We're at EMS. But I joined the EMS program due to schedule conflict, and it really helped me to create many new friends and learn so much from Mr. Vermonte.
Thank you.
My project was similarly, it was about like a water quality testing survey. And like before, you also really helped like at the beginning, I was like really working hard, but when I like dive down a bit, you like influenced us to work harder because sometimes
Yay.
we like to goof off a bit. Me
Well, that's all part of the
especially.
charm. Thank you, ladies. I really would like to thank you for taking time from your party. That's very sweet. It really is.
Thanks so much, Mr. B.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, that's really nice. This is the most fun night of the DC trip is the boat dance party, and
Yeah.
they joined us. Well,
Good.
so obviously we're painting a picture of very dedicated students who are putting in some extra hours. I think I'll take a moment to read each of the parent questions aloud.
Sure.
So the first question comes from Lane, who asked, how do we obtain the application? All of the application materials will be posted on Google Classrooms by 7th grade science teachers tomorrow by mid-morning. I think it's going to take some time for this video recording to render, but this
Okay.
recording, the application document, and the PowerPoint slides will be posted to Google Classrooms. And then your application will then be submitted to Mr. Bramante via email, and all of that information is in the application document.
Okay.
All right. Our next question, what do you mean by final exam?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, for, you know, the course basically is a traditional course. So there's a midterm grade and a final exam grade. So what I have the students do as a midterm is really collate all of the information that for the experiments that they've conducted up until the midterm time, which is about January. So that would include the background information. What is the problem? Why is it important? What is the experiments that you conducted and what are the results that you have thus far? The difference between that and a final exam is the final exam is at the end of the year. So it really should have more information with regards to what was the overall, you know, what's the rest of the data look like and what is the overall findings of the entire project. So it's just a bit longer. That's it.
Alrighty, and similarly, a parent asks, is this class like a class in Aspen and you get grades?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. The attendance is a little bit of a challenge. I still do that by hand, you know, but the kids, yeah, it is a class in Aspen, and yes, they do get grades.
Alrighty, and will this course take place over the weekend as well? I think just
No, just a great question. I mean, it's really just as needed. So the course will be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And typically, as the year starts to unfold, to give you an example, September, we're talking about ideas. October, we're writing it up, you know, creating all the procedures. And late October, early November, we start to order chemicals and they start to come in middle of, you know, early November. And that's really the time where the kids start to get busy. And so it becomes a question of, do you have an experiment that might take 3 hours? So I might come in on a Saturday to allow for that to happen. But, you know, that is the extra time that sort of comes and goes as necessary, particularly in February, but it is not scheduled for the weekend.
alrighty, and the final question in the Q&A right now is it likely that the original idea may change during the course of the program or the year?
I assume you're talking about student idea, and of course it can, you know, really, the difficulty in coming up with an idea is certainly, it is challenging. But what I hope happens is that students really give some thought to what really interests them the most, because if you pick a topic that you think is important because someone else may think it's important, once it starts to get difficult, you tend to start to lose a little bit of steam. In Mackie's case, for example, I'm staring right at you because you're in the middle of the screen. Mackie was really excited about these different dog foods, and once she got through to the thick old man's head, and that would be me, about what we were really looking at and what was important, it was challenging. She had to learn certainly different technologies, including high pressure chromatography, and she was really willing to stick it out and learn because this was something that was near and dear to her. So, you know, the last thing I would want is that a student really grow bored of an idea and just sit on top of it and keep going because they just feel like they have to. I would rather they change their ideas and really get excited about them. You know, sure. Lily, you're there. Would you? Oh my God, Arthur! A night would not be complete without Arthur. I'm not a parent. I'm Arthur. But I
Oh,
can't.
Arthur, Mike, can we unmute Arthur?
Funny.
Here he is. Arthur, you are now elevated to a panelist. You now have talking privileges.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Arthur, do you want to share a little bit about your experience and your project?
You got to unmute, buddy.
Sure. Well, uh, I had a lot of fun this year because I had to create this whole thing from scratch, and I liked it because it had to challenge me to create like a whole different, like a whole new program from scratch, and I had to assemble the project bit by bit, and it was really just a fun experience for me overall.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun working with you, Arthur. Thank
Yeah.
you for stopping by and getting through. 'Cause I know you said you wanted to speak. Arthur is the student that created the allergy artificial intelligence program, which is really kind of slick. And I will say, when he explained it, one-on-one, it was pretty exciting. But when he actually turned in that poster with all those different graphics, it was very exciting, because what really struck me the most was that he had this idea. He could speak about it, but then he could also put it down on a piece of paper and communicate it. It's very exciting. So good job, Arthur.
Yeah,
Lily,
thanks.
would you like to share a little bit, Lily?
Oh yeah, sure. So my project was I created a patch that you would place over a mosquito bite, and the patch would relieve the itching of the bite, and it would also extract the mosquito venom in it. And by doing this, it would protect you from any harmful diseases that the mosquito could have been carrying.
Great job. It was awesome. Did
Thank
you
you.
have fun?
Yeah, Junior Innovators was a really fun experience for me.
I mean, for me as well. Any more questions in there, Ms. Fogel? No.
Nope, I don't see any others flying in through the chat. But I'm sure that you can also reach out to Andy if you do have
Sure.
questions. His email will be presented or will be shared on the application document, which will be on student Google Classrooms. And while we appreciate all families joining the call tonight, as Andy mentioned, it is really important that students are the ones producing the work in the application, and that is the student idea. That is really the crux of their application.
I mean, if you get, just listening to the kids, you really get a feeling for the variety, and what I'd like to really impress upon parents is even what sounds like something that is sort of matter of fact or not so difficult becomes very difficult once you start to solve the problem that underlies it. And so there's all these projects were different. I think you got a really good feeling of what the middle schoolers are doing in terms of the diversity, the complexity, but then also the growth that takes place from the middle school to the high school, and how that really just flourishes into other things, and for every one of the students that was here, Lula did a detection system for MODIs, which was a sort of diabetes-like, if I'm not mistaken.
It was like a mutation.
Yeah, and so that very different than what you did this year. Same thing with Hannah. So I look forward to these other students that are on the call and to see what they're going to be doing next year.
There is one more question. I know you touched on it a bit, Andy, about what it's like for students to have other commitments. How does that affect whether or not you'll take the course? And I do just want to share one piece of information, because some of the students.
It's not. I just would like to know, so that I can get a feeling for what the kids are into or committed to. But essentially, what will happen is, as we get closer, if the students are participating, particularly in the state science fair, that those posters that that I demonstrate or displayed for you guys, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. So your son or daughter is going to have to find time outside of that 1 hour per week to really get all of that stuff done. And it's really not a question of okay, Saturday I'm having class, everybody's got to come. That's not how it works. It's essentially, I put on the blackboard, or the whiteboard in this case, I'll be here Saturday from 10 to 4. If you want to come, you come. If you don't, you don't. And so really what I'm doing is I'm really accelerating that whole process of your student taking ownership of this process and really trying to manage amongst all the other things they do, how they're going to get this stuff done, and so that I just want parents to be aware of that. I thought in a couple of times in the past, it probably wasn't clear enough. That's why I thought to mention it.
And the only other note I will say is that we often have students who are applicants of Junior Innovators who are also in a double or triple jump math course, and it would be one of the 0 block math courses that takes place at GHS in the morning as well. Is there anyone on the screen right now who did math and Junior Innovators? Okay, so Lula, maybe you can share what that was like and how 1 day a week you would miss math and what that meant in terms of some independent work that you had to do outside of your 5-day-a-week math class.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if they still did it, but the year that I was in the math class, they had it so that Mondays were only for extra help because basically everyone in that math class was also in Junior Innovators, and because the middle school classes are much longer because they do it during 0 block or before high school. So what they did is that they just made the classes longer and just made Monday like optional, so it doesn't conflict at all.
Yeah, what we have found over time in the second iteration of this year is that it just requires a bit of extra flexibility with Mr. Bramante and the math teacher to make sure that students have what they need both in math and Junior Innovators to make it work. So yes, it will work, it can work. It just means that your student, it's extra time outside of the school day to make up any missed math work and to get into Junior Innovators when they can outside of that morning block.
Oh, see another Q&A button there.
Arthur wants to be elevated again. Mike, if you can elevate Arthur. And then Laura said, how is the application formatted? It's on a Google Doc.
Yeah,
right?
just a Google document. That's all. Yeah. Whatever format you want the references to be, it's really whatever you prefer. It's really just to convey the information.
Oh, one piece I will say, your science teachers do not need to write you a letter of recommendation. The reason that you
No.
list your science teacher names is just so Mr. Bronte can reach out if need be. But you do not need to ask your teachers to write.
No, not at all. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah. Was Arthur
Oh
going
yeah,
to
I
talk?
just wanted to say one thing. I was in Lula's class last year, and they did continue it this year, where like Monday was just like some sort of an extra help because there's only 2 students in the class that aren't in Junior Innovators. So it's just continuation of just like a extra help, and if you want to come in, then you just come in. And I just got there at the last 15 minutes of class.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, to add on to that, I know that last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was just one math class that was being given. This year, there's quite a few. Right? There's 3 different ones. So it does work. It really does. Kids enjoy it.
All right. Oh, is there one more? What
No.
apps do proposals look like compared to final projects? What do app proposals look like compared to final projects?
Well, the application is really the idea and, defining the problem, defining why it's important and how, the student might go about creating a solution for that problem. So to go back to Lula, I'm just looking at Lula at the moment, her Modi's diagnosis, her application really explained what Modi's was about. What makes it different than diabetes and why is it important to why is early detection so important? Because the people that often have it, and she had some personal family members that that ran into this. It gets misdiagnosed, and the treatments are incorrect. So the proposal really speaks to that. Speaks to the problem, the identification of the problem, the need for a solution, and then really delves into what the student might attempt to do to correct it or to create a solution. Now that to jump forward to the finished product, the final presentation, or for many, the poster at the science fair really starts with the same background information, but then actually walks through the different experiments that was conducted, throughout the research, and whether it's through many different parts, many different technologies. And then finally ends with the overall solution, whether it's a device, a detection device, or whether it's a new medication delivery system, or whether it's a new AI that can detect lymphedema. The list goes on and on. So the difference is really the proposal speaks to the problem, attempts to address what might be done about it, whereas the final project, whether it's for the science fair or not, really walks the reader through the entire process all the way to the back end, which is a solution. Okay. All right. Let me get that out of there.
All right. Well, parents, thank you so much for joining us for the hour to learn more about Junior Innovators, but an extra big thanks to all of our current and past Junior Innovators.
Yes. Thank you, kids.
Taking the
You
time.
guys are awesome.
Just more time you take out of your busy lives to do this. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Last time, applications and information and recordings will be on Google Classrooms from 7th grade science teachers tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. And what I would suggest too, as a finishing note, if your students are thinking of things and they have questions about, are these ideas doable? Are they good? Are they worthwhile? They certainly can reach out to me by email to sort of bounce those ideas back and forth. I'd be happy to do that.
All righty.
All right. There you go. Oh, Arthur's gone. Oh, you moved.
No.
You having fun in DC, buddy, or what? No. Arthur? I don't. Oh, well.
In DC.
You're not. You are, correct?
No, that's just
Oh.
CMS.
Oh, that's CMS. Sorry. Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
I wish.
Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you
All right,
guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. It was great talking to all of you.